Right, well, welcome everyone. It's so nice to have you joining us today. In the world of AI, we always look to all of the different technologies. Now, technology in the AI sphere has multiple levels. There is we call them the raw, hard AI, call it engines. These are the ones that really everybody piggybacks onto. And then we get the layers that go above. These are the ones where you can go into a certain website and you pay a certain fee and it will create a website for you, or it'll do X, Y, and Z for you. Those are generally built on those solid platforms. Now, one of the platforms that really has come leaps and bounds through everything is a little one, and I'd dig its name. I'll be honest with you, I think it's got probably one of the most coolest AI names around, and it goes by the name of Claude. Now, we were kind of hoping that they would have gone with Jarvis, but Iron Man grabbed that one. So next best is Jarvis's cousin, Claude, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Now, you might be going, yes, I know Claude. I've used Claude, but who is the people behind it? So I did a little bit of research, and I must admit, I was actually pleasantly surprised to actually hear these typical facts. The first one is Claude is actually, call it, I want to say, the child of a company called Anthropic. Now, you can Google Anthropic and actually learn more about them, but you don't have to Google that, because why I'm going to share this information with you. It actually originated in February 2021. And its founders were actually two executives that left, and wait for it, this is what blew my mind. They left OpenAI. You know, OpenAI with ChatGPT, yes, they left them and came over and started Anthropic. Now, yes, there was a team and everybody got around them, but then they actually started to put their knowledge, their experience into the actual company. And by March 2023, that took them nearly 2 years and 1 month, they actually then released the first kind of version of Claude, but wasn't truly available to the public. This was really for them to get their fingers in. It was only until July 2023 when things really started to rocket, and Claude was, let's say, to the public, was actually born. And that is where this whole journey then became, well, a new AI. But here's something that is truly blows my mind. If we think from July 2023, they started with investors that put money in to get it going. And yes, the investors did put a couple of billion. But as of, and this blows my mind, as of February this year, Anthropic was valued at $380 billion. Now, that's a lot of rands. But here's something that is blowing my mind even more. They are busy with more investors. And Adrian, you probably know things that are deeper into it, but I just read what's on the surface. But they've actually got more investors. And with this new little investment that's coming into it, they estimate by the end of the year that Anthropic is going to be worth just under, well, it's just over 900 billion, just under $1 trillion. That blows my mind. Now, if you think about it, that is just in 5 years. It has grown exponentially. So what did I do? Well, I wanted to make sure that if we know that there's such a big company that's out there, that's creating such an amazing product, well, why not see if I can get somebody from the inside that can actually then talk about the product and give us a little bit of a high level. Now, I know that what's going to be shared today may go over some of your heads, but I can tell you now, it's well worth learning more about it. Yes, there's a paid version, and I'm sure, Adrian, you're using the paid version, but even the free version does amazing, amazing work. I've been using it personally, and the results are amazing. So the guest that's joining me today, and it's all the way from the US, which is always great to chat, is Adrian. Adrian, how are you doing today? And thank you so much for putting your hand up to come onto this call today.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for the intro and for the amazing overview of Anthropic as a company.
Absolutely. Well, I always do my homework. You know from me that I'm a person that always do my homework and I do my preparation. So let's just get an understanding who Adrian is, because I know that when we first had our conversation, I was blown away by your resume, where you've been and the companies that you've worked for, and now you've landed up with Anthropic. Just give us a very high level overview of your journey that you've had in your working career.
Yeah, so nice to meet everybody. As Stuart mentioned, I am Adrian. I'm on the security team at Anthropic. I've been at Anthropic since October 2024, which feels like a short time, but in Anthropic years, it's been a long time. So I think I've been there longer than 85% of the company at this point because we're still such a young company. But before Anthropic, I was at Google. I was head of security consulting at Google Cloud. And then before that, I was actually at the Central Intelligence Agency in the US federal government. So I've had some very uh, disparate experiences in my career, and I'm excited to be at a fast growing startup right now.
Absolutely. Well, I know for all of us in South Africa, as soon as we hear somebody has worked at the CIA, because we like the acronyms, the CIA and being at Google, and now there's at Anthropic, it gives a nice big wow factor to all of that. But I can assure you, Adrian is very much down to earth. So let's talk about Claude, the little baby, the little child that's actually at the moment a teenager that's about to actually get their driver's license and really start to take that highway and just go Route 66. I'm heading to California. That's where I'm heading off to. What are the big differences, the fundamental differences between Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini? What makes Claude different to the other AIs that are out there?
Yeah, I think you actually touched on it in your overview, describing how the founders of Anthropic actually came from OpenAI and they started working on Claude. And one thing that you mentioned that people probably didn't catch on to is that Claude was available before the company released it. And that is important because it is an indicator of how Anthropic operates as a company. So, what makes Anthropic and Claude different is that Anthropic is a frontier AI research lab. So you have the chat GPTs and the Geminis and the Claudes, and they all pretty much do a lot of the same things. But fundamentally, Anthropic is a research lab, meaning that the founders and the company cares deeply about providing safe, harmless AI. And pretty much selling the product is like a byproduct of having safe AI. So we prioritize research first and creating good AI rather than your typical company who they're building a really cool AI thing, but like their sole purpose is to build a really cool AI thing. Our sole purpose is to have a safe AI research lab that can make sure the next phase of technology innovation is one that we can all live with. And in addition to that, or as a byproduct of that, Anthropic trains Claude on a constitution. So all AI models, they are trained on data that's on the internet, data that people provide. So all models are trained, but we took an extra step in that we created a literal constitution. It's like 4 constitutional values that Claude was trained on. So every time Claude generates an answer, it checks the Constitution to make sure it is living up to the standards that we've set as a company. And I think those two things fundamentally differentiate Claude from the other products.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've definitely noticed when you actually put an instruction through to Claude, it actually says, this is what I'm doing. And then it comes back and says, hey, by the way, I found an error. I'm
Mhm.
correcting it. And you're going, but I haven't even seen it. And you're correcting it? How's that possible? Well, there is actually the answer. It double checks everything. And if we actually look at the 2 founders that came in, and I think they're brothers. I stand to be corrected, but I think they're brothers that came in. Both were vice presidents of different departments at OpenAI, and one of them is on privacy policy. And I think the other one is actually on security. So taking these 2 elements shows that the data that's coming in is, I want to say, it's getting validated to be as accurate as possible, and it doesn't start to create all these abnormalities of, oh, by the way, we created an AI policy for our government, and it created 6 hallucinating examples that were supposedly real, but they weren't. So maybe there's a place for Claude into our local government. That's just me stabbing that, by the way. So let's talk about how Claude can actually help real estate agents, because as you mentioned, it's built on models. And models is really how AI works. It's doing one thing to do the next thing, to do the next thing, going through this particular process. So there's two areas that real estate agents really want. They're ultimately wanting more time and they're wanting more clients. These are the two areas that really is, I want to say, a difficulty sometimes. So let's start with the factor of time. How can Claude help a real estate agent with time? And I know that there's within Claude, there's things like projects or files, whatever the case. As you know, my terminology in this is not the greatest. How can Claude help a real estate agent with regards to time with everything that's within Claude?
Yeah. So fun fact, even though I'm not a real estate agent, I am a real estate investor outside of Anthropic. And I 100% use Claude to save me time because I don't have time to like work Anthropic and manage a rental property portfolio. So Claude can do a bunch of things, but one of the things that I most heavily use it for relative to saving time is being my virtual assistant and creating content. So similar to wanting to find buyers or send properties to the right people, I'm looking for renters. I'm looking for the best market rent. I'm looking for opportunities to raise rents over time, and I can use Cowork to be my assistant to go through my emails, send emails, create reminders, and I can use Claude AI to create content for marketing, for strategies, for social media. And I'll actually demonstrate all of these things for you, but those are just some really quick ways that you can use Claude to optimize your business in real estate.
Perfect. Now, you said a term that I'm actually not familiar with, co-work. Is that
Mhm.
an external product or is it an internal product? Just briefly, what is co-work?
Yeah, it's a new external product. So I've obviously been using it for a while internally, but it's now available for everyone. It is not available through the Claude AI website, but if you download the Claude desktop app, you get access to Claude Chat, Claude Cowork, and Claude Code. So Claude Chat is what everybody is using at Claude AI. So that's in the desktop app, but also in the desktop app, Cowork is the Claude virtual assistant is what we call it. And it can literally do things for you on your computer, in your email. It will act on your behalf. It always asks your permission. It can't do things unless you connect certain systems. But once you do that, you can give it a task and it'll go do the things that you never check off your to-do list, or it'll remind you about your to-do list, and it can really help you speed up your day and structure your day. So that's co-work.
That's amazing. I have actually just learned something new, and I've actually now made a note that I'm going to be downloading because I think most of us are just familiar with chat. Why?
Hmm.
Because that has kind of been the norm. Just put in your prompts and chat. Co-work, that has blown my mind because this is something that is really going to start saving you time. Just think of everything that you can do. Now, I'm sure, Adrian, you can share a little bit about it. And it's nice to know. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go behind the iron wall, find somebody within the company, because generally you have access and knowledge of products that, well, the general public don't know about it yet. And if they do know about it, they're keeping it a secret until they know about it so that they can go and do a YouTube video and get millions and millions of views. But we're releasing it first. So just think of it. You're joining us in this particular session. You've just heard it for the first time. And I want to say probably the first time in South Africa, co-work. So thank you for sharing that because I've now got that underlined about 12 times that I'm going to get that into my system. So co-work is definitely something that's going to help you. So that's one area that we're going to talk about, and you can do some examples of how that can actually be integrated to actually work. But another area is you spoke about finding buyers. You and for yourself is obviously finding renters. Now, you've got to try and, well, create this data or get this data to be able to find this particular information. what can you do with Claude to help you to be that virtual assistant that, and you put it, to create the social media posts that will be directed? So how do you go through a process that helps you to find that particular buyer or seller? For you, it might be a new property or a tenant. How do you go through that particular process to help and speed up time?
Yeah, so you all can do this today in Claude Chat. So in terms of doing like market analysis, you don't really need to pull together any data. You can pull together data, but Claude is so powerful that as long as you tick the option to allow web search, you just put in a prompt that says, "Hey, I'm in this location. I'm looking for this type of buyer. Describe to me what the market climate is right now. What things should I be considering?" Um, on top of that, if you do have data, it can be even more powerful. Say you have a document of your most recent sales, and you want to do an analysis that shows where am I winning, where am I losing, how can I optimize my business so that I can close more deals more quickly. You can provide that data to Claude, and they'll do the analysis on the documentation that you've created. They can create visuals for it, create reports for it. So Claude really is like your research assistant that can either go find data for you or use the data that you have and generate more insights from it. And all of that saves you more time and allows you to be more effective in your day to day. So a lot of people are scared that AI is going to take their jobs, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But I think if we learn to partner with AI to work faster, work more effectively, work more smart, we can all benefit from it.
Absolutely. We want to become AI enhanced. That really takes us to that next particular level. Now, I like the way that you've actually shared that, because not only can you ask Claude to do the research, but be very specific, and do look out. I do have another session that's going to be around, which will talk about acronyms and how to actually model the inputs to get the outputs. But if you're actually putting in those details, hey, I'm in this particular city, I'm looking for this, describe what you're looking for with the current economic factors happening in South Africa in this particular area. Where would I find a particular buyer, seller, etc.? It can do all that data analysis, but you can also upload certain bits of information. So in South Africa, we could then take a Lightstone report, something that we actually use that will give you all the data for that particular suburb. Claude will be able to read that information, taking it with existing data that it researches that you didn't even think of going to, and actually correlating all of that information for you. Instead of you sitting there for 2-3 hours of trying to figure out, where is this information? How do I find this information? Let it do it for you, which is saving you a huge, huge amounts of time. So let's talk about, now that we've done this particular research, we've found a buyer, a seller for real estate agents, or maybe it's a tenant, because we do have agents that are helping our clients to find tenants on their rental properties. Now that we've got that, we obviously want to present ourselves in a manner that is at next level. How does Claude take our information? So for instance, if we wanted to create a presentation that included something about us as the agent, can it entwine that with the actual market research to create, for instance, a seller's presentation or a buyer's presentation? Is it able to do that and actually spit out a wonderfully looking document?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only can Claude generate a document, it can generate a slide deck, a website, a clickable prototype. You can do this both in Claude Chat and in a new product, which you all may or may not have heard about, Claude Design. Claude Design is a more enhanced version of Claude Chat, but it's specifically for designing beautiful presentations, prototypes, websites. I'll show you all that as well. But once you have the information that you need, you just upload it to Claude, tell it what you needed to do. It'll present something, and you just prompt it to massage the content and the look and feel until it becomes what you want it to become. But you can do pretty much everything that I've described other than the virtual assistant things in just Claude AI website.
Brilliant. Well, I know everyone is now getting excited. I think you've given us enough little teasers of saying you're going to show us. I think it's time for you to actually show us, because I think most of us like to see the visuals. We hear about it. We now going, we want to know how to actually do it. How do we click? Where do we click? What do we actually do? So for those of you that have never used Claude, just go to Claude, CLAUDE.ai. That is the AI online platform where we do all the chatting, and that's kind of the basics from there. But Adrian, you should be able to share your screen. And I will say,
All right.
you can actually share some more magic and wisdom because you're sharing stuff that we didn't know, or I didn't know about. And I do a lot of research. Trust me. When I bring on a guest, I bring on a lot of research. All right, there we go. So over to you. Give us the full knockdown, start to end. Go for it.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with Cowork. And this is actually in the desktop app so that everyone can kind of get a visual feel for it. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you how you can use Cowork to be your virtual assistant. So I know Stuart mentioned that he was going to tell you how we know each other later in the conversation, but I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder because you're part of my demo right now. So I am actually one of Stuart's coaching clients, and I am going to use Cowork to tell me what Stuart needs me to do. So I've intentionally not checked off some of the tasks that he has assigned to me, and I have connected Cowork to my Gmail. And I've asked Claude to look at my email to tell me if there are any outstanding tasks that I have from Stuart. So normally you would have to go through your email manually, look at all the emails, write them down, or copy and paste them into a document. But because I've connected Cowork to my Gmail, it literally went into my Gmail account and it found all the outstanding actions that I need to do before our next meeting next Wednesday. So since I have this list of things that I need to do, I need to remember to do the things before next week. So now I'm going to ask Claude to set a reminder on my calendar for 3 o'clock Eastern time today so that I can make sure I get all of these things done because I don't want to show up to our meeting unprepared. So I've also connected Claude to my calendar and it's going to my Gmail calendar and it's adding the task. And anytime Claude is doing something in a system that you've connected it to, it's going to ask for your permission. So I'm going to give it permission to create an event on my calendar. All right. Let's see if it did it. Yep. Okay, here's the new task that Claude just created, due
You have to
Wednesday,
just
June 3rd.
choose the new sharing screen. At the top, you'll see share this tab or share this screen. We're still seeing your Anthropic screen or Cowork screen, I must say.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you see my calendar?
There we go. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Yeah, so Claude created the new tasks for me to check off this list. All right.
Now, I want to just jump in there and just say one little thing. Now, how amazing is that? You have a client that sends you an email with a list of items. If you've connected, and we do use our Google Calendars, we can actually connect all of that. And I will ask you, how do we connect? Because I know agents are going to be asking, how do we connect once we've got it? But you can actually say, please check my emails for anything that's outstanding and give me all the details. Then just give the prompt, please add that to my calendar so that I can actually make sure that it's done at a certain time. That is actually something that I want to say. I saw Ryan Serhant do that before he got into the shower. If people can remember, there was an episode. He opened his phone. He says, hey, please read my emails. Do this, do this, do this, do this. He went to shower. He came back. They didn't screen him showering, by the way. Sorry, ladies. But when he came back, everything was done. Now, can Cowork also send an email for you?
I was just about to demo that.
Oh my God. Go for it.
You're cheating. Okay, so I've connected Cowork to my email, and to do this, all you have to do is generate a prompt. And if you are not connected, Claude will send a pop-up and say, we're not connected to your email. Pick one of these. So right now it does superhuman, email, Gmail, and Microsoft. So any of those can integrate with Claude. So I want to send an email to this is my real estate email account, um, asking for availability to review a sales analysis report. And I want to send an email to Stuart asking if we can reschedule our meeting for next week. So I'm going to send this. Google Gmail, we cannot send the email for you right now, but it will create the email draft, which I don't know that we necessarily want AI literally sending emails for us, but it'll draft the content. It'll literally put it in my email draft box. It's still asking for my permission because it's actually accessing my email account. I give it permission, and then I can go to my drafts folder and see the email that was created. All right, let me make sure I switch my tabs so you can see it.
Yes, we can see
Okay.
it now.
Yeah. So, and notice that I did not give it any content. I literally just said, send an email to Adrian, send an email to Stuart. This is the general gist of what I need the email to be. And Claude drafted the email that's being sent to my real estate account, asking for time to go through the sales analysis walkthrough. And separately, it's sending an email to Stuart asking if we can reschedule our meeting next week. So you can do this at the start of your day to just check things off. You can actually create templated tasks. Like if you have weekly things that you know you want to do, like check my email account every Monday to see the things that I didn't do last week or whatever it is. You can make like scheduled tasks through Cowork and literally turn it into like your administrative assistant.
Perfect. So we're going to come to Q&As at the end. So do put all your questions into the actual chat boxes. At the end, I'm going to open a Q&A and we're going to nail through all of those particular questions. So keep them going in. All right, so now we've got emails. I'm getting excited. What else can this Cowork actually do? Can it actually make us a cup of coffee?
Not yet. It can probably give you a coffee recipe, but I'm going to show you how Claude Cowork can take the data that you have to generate like a powerful report for it. So let me add, this is just so you can like see the source that I'm using for this data. So I've created a spreadsheet of a real estate sales analysis. Okay. So this spreadsheet is showing a list of properties, where they're located, and I used South Africa geography. When they were listed, the list price, the sale date, and the sales price. So this is just like fictitious 3 years of my sales. And let's say that I want to figure out how to improve my sales. I want to make sure I'm performing at like the highest level possible based off what I've done up to this point. So I'm going to use Cowork and I've typed a prompt here. So this year, I want it to be my highest sales year yet, but I don't know where to start. I want you to look at my sales spreadsheet for the past 3 years and build me a performance plan that's going to help me increase my sales by 30%. And I want to know what I'm doing well, what I could work on, what factors contributed to my success, and what the next step should be, and anything else that should be important. And the only thing I'm going to give it is the sheet, that I just showed you all. So let me add the folder that the sheet is in. So I'm not going to give it the actual document. I could give it the actual document, but I want to show you how Claude can go into the system for you and do it. Connect. All right. It's
And this is what
running this.
I love about Claude is it actually tells you what it's doing. So you're not just sitting
Yeah.
there waiting with a little circle going around. You've actually got the inside of Claude's brain. You can see it firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. And we're not going to watch this whole thing. I just want to make sure it doesn't have any questions to ask me. So sometimes when you prompt it, it will ask you follow-up questions to make sure you have clarity. So I'm gonna do a Word document. It's asking me how it should think about the 30% increase. I don't know. Let's do both. Let's think about volume and properties. So Claude's gonna do his thing. I'm gonna make sure there are no more questions, and then I'll jump to something else so we don't sit here for 3 minutes.
But again, this is the amazing thing. I've actually realized using Claude is it actually wants to validate it. It comes up sometimes, and I've done a document where it actually asked me 6 different questions with different options. Now, you could have produced the document, read the document, and said, well, no, that's not right. Claude has that level of intelligence where it actually says, hey, but wait a minute. Is it that you want this or this? Remember, humans are ambiguous. We talk in a very vague nature. We want to make sure that we have this accuracy and clarity. And that's what Claude asks us these particular questions as it's going through. So the process takes some time, but once it starts to take all this information, just think about this. You've entered all this data, you've set it to go. You're now sitting back and you're phoning one of your sellers, you're phoning some of your buyers, you're actually doing some other work. It's busy doing all this for you, not you having to go and Google and search and all of these things. You're actually busy with something else while you're doing all of that else. And I know there's an option where it can actually give you a notification when it's actually done because I
Mhm.
set it up and that was actually pretty cool. I must admit, once it was done, it says, I'm done, which was quite nice. But you can actually carry on with something else, which allows you, wait for it. And I know I'm a one thing coach. Multitasking is a lie. Well, here you're allowing you to do one task and your virtual assistant, being Claude, to do another task. And as you can see, this is a big task. This isn't something that's small. Those are quite powerful questions that's asked. And I know each and every one of you are going, I would have asked the same thing. How do I increase? I have no idea. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. But taking all this information, you can imagine the little Claude bots are going all over the place and starting to ping every corner of the earth to get you the right information, validating that information so it can actually give you a particular report. And it does take some time. I've done one that actually took me nearly 10 minutes to actually get a response out of it. But if you look at the size of the document, it was over 100 pages long that we'd actually created. So it is a really, really intensive type of document that comes at the out of it. So there we are actually already up to 14,000, 15,000 characters that has actually started to put everything together. This is not just a, well, we think you should do X and then you're going to achieve Y. This is actually going to give you something that's really detailed. So I'm actually looking forward to the output. So while that's busy going in the background, and I'd love to see the actual output on that, what
Mhm.
else can you share with us in the interim, Adrian?
Yeah. So it looks like we're about 50% done. So while that finishes running, I will jump over to chat. So remember, this is the desktop app, so you can just toggle between the different flavors of Claude. And for this next demo, I'm going to use 3 properties that I found on the eXp Realty site. All 3 of them were noted as investment properties. And I'm going to figure out which of these properties I should send to my client who is an investor. So I want to make sure I give the best customer experience. I don't want to just send them anything just for the sake of sending them something. I want to send them a very highly targeted pitch. So I'm going to attach the 3 documents, and it's literally just the listing information. And I'm going to give Claude a specific prompt. So I have a buyer who wants to add to their portfolio, and they want something that's relatively turnkey. So they don't want to do a bunch of rehab. They want it to be in an accessible location for working professionals so they can target that demographic. And they want to be able to raise rents on it annually. So Claude is going to analyze these three investment properties and tell me which one I should send. And as you can see, that one was super quick. Like it immediately identified the second property as the strongest match for this particular buyer profile because the listing said that the property was well maintained. It's in an established area with professionals and young families, and there is solid rental escalation potential. It also did the analysis on the other two. Property one, strong location, but weaker on turnkey, so it would require some rehab. And then the last one, cheapest property, but probably not the right fit. So Claude, like in seconds, did the mental math for me so that I don't have to sit and toil over what's best for my client. And if I want to send follow-up questions, like, um, let's just go with that one. What would make these other two properties more attractive? Okay, so a cosmetic refresh on property one, um, confirm that all the systems are working, get current rent figures to see if you actually have room to do escalation. Property three just doesn't seem like a good fit for this buyer at all. Um, but I still need to offload these other two properties. So now I'm going to ask Claude, what type of buyers should I position the other two investment properties for? Okay, so the ideal profile for buyer number one is a capital growth investor that has an appetite to add value to a property. And it's giving me specific details about what that means relative to adding value for property number one and an angle to do the pitch that entry into this area is super rare. It's a high growth area. The cosmetic work is worth the upside. And for property three, the ideal buyer would be a yield focused active investor. So someone who wants cash flow, um, someone who is open to like a co op situation. And the pitch is that this property already has a tenant. So you don't really have to do much. You have a solid yield. It's in a decent location. It's a cash flowing asset. So you can use Claude to do analysis on the work that you have to do to help you work faster and work smarter.
And I want to jump in there because here's something that's amazing. As I'm going through this, I know that each and every one of us, we pick up listings and we think, who is our ideal buyer? Well, you've actually taken all the details with the pictures, your description, make sure that your descriptions are really well written out that describes the property well. And you can actually say, here's the property. Who's my ideal buyer? Where are they going to come from? Give me that type of perspective. And Claude can actually analyze and give you that information. I think that is probably one of the most powerful things because we go to our sellers and we say, we're going to sell your property. Well, now you can actually add on to it. We already know who the buyer is because we've actually used this deep data analysis to actually identify it, which then takes us to the point of when we're doing social media, we know who to target. So this is actually extremely powerful as you're going through. So back to you, Adrian.
Yeah, almost perfect segue because my next demo is going to be social media related. But let's see what happened with our report. So it looks like our plan is done, our sales performance plan that Cowork did while we were working on the investor analysis. And as you can see, all I provided was a spreadsheet that had like 30 sales in it. And Claude generated a 6-page report analysis to tell me how I can improve my performance by 30% in 2026. Um, yeah, I need to move at least 16 units, it looks like. And it's telling me what I did well, how I'm moving the market, where my mode is. Like, it looked at the data that I provided and it's telling me where my sales mode is. So I know that I should probably take more listings in that area. It says that apartments move faster, so I should target apartments. Like, it's really telling me how I can tangibly improve my performance based on what I've done in the past. So yeah, this is just one of the many things that Claude Cowork can do to just help you be more effective in your work. Generate reports and emails, create tasks, anything that you would delegate to an assistant, Cowork can help you with.
So here's something that's amazing. While you're sitting at 10 o'clock at night and you're feeling stressed and you're thinking you don't know what to do, well, you've actually now got a new cousin called Claude. And remember, his bigger cousin is Jarvis, and Jarvis was amazing. So Claude will come into your life. Claude is going to actually start to answer those questions. So the next morning, you don't wake up with that overhanging headache of what do I need to do. It can create that plan. It gives you that direction. It becomes that person that you can actually bounce off to give you very detailed analysis. And I will tell you now, I've used this personally. It really levels up your game. All right. So you spoke about social media. What have you got in store for us?
Yes, one of my favorite use cases for Claude to help you create high value social media content. So I'm going to create a new chat and I've pulled an additional listing from the EXP site. And I literally just took a screenshot of it. So whatever was on the listing, and I took some of the photos, like 5 or 6 of the photos. I'm going to upload all of that to Claude. And I'm going to tell Claude just in one sentence that I have a townhouse that I need to sell. I've attached some of the listing information, draft a Facebook post that will engage and attract ideal buyers. And I intentionally gave Claude a somewhat vague description because I want Claude to use the data that's in these screenshots to determine the text for an ideal buyer. Claude is smart enough to be able to identify the type of language that will align with someone who will want to buy this. And it did so in seconds. So Facebook post draft, I can literally copy and paste this into Facebook and share it. And it gave me hashtags, it has the listing agent's information. Your social media marketing campaign is done in seconds. And if I want to tailor this, so it gave me that prompt. What about if I wanted to tailor it for family versus single working professional? So if you do actually have thoughts around where you want certain properties to land, you can ask Claude to give you different versions. So it's writing my version for families. Again, copy and paste it into Facebook. And you can obviously do this for any platform. If you want to tailor it to professionals on LinkedIn, or if you want to tailor it to Instagram, you can get it to generate content for you. And what I really love to do with Claude is to create images for it. So I use Canva to create graphics, and I think it's amazing. But you don't even have to use Canva anymore unless you just really want to. You can have Claude to create polished images for you. So it'll create me something that I can post with my Facebook post narrative that it generated. And it's just using what I uploaded. And I'm only asking for a single picture here because I don't want it to take too long to run, but I can ask it to generate a carousel. I can ask it to make a PDF, but I'm just going to ask for one image. And it already looked up the optimal image size for Facebook. I didn't have to give it any data. I just told it what I wanted it to do, and it's doing its thing based off of what it knows about social media.
Now we're all sitting with a bated breath, waiting for this wonderful image. And one thing I really like about this is I remember the days before all the AI to create those social media posts. What is the size? I think it was probably one of the most common Googled terms. What is the correct dimensions to do a posting on Facebook, to do it on Instagram? Is it a square? Is it a landscape? What is it? Claude's actually doing that for you. You don't have to go and pull in all that information, and you don't have to go and now create this image that we're actually waiting to see what it actually looks like, because this is what's going to simplify your process when you're actually going forward. You're taking great pictures, you're getting these descriptions, and here it comes, and I can just say, wow.
Yeah, it made a beautiful posting. If you have specific colors or design features that you want to incorporate, you just tell Claude, use these colors or use this logo. But it took the photos that I gave it, the listing information that I did a screenshot of, and it created this beautiful post that I can put into Facebook with the copy that it already gave me. And that was, I don't even know if that was 5 minutes, but yeah, love using Claude for social media content.
So I want to add something which is actually going to be so cool. This exact estate, I personally sold a unit in there. So that picture that it's picked out is actually of the clubhouse. It's the pool in the clubhouse. And it is fantastic because guess what? I used the exact same picture that I took to actually represent the property. So you can actually see that it can see what's going to sell. And in fact, it was that exact picture that got a buyer to say, hey, I'm interested in this particular property, took them around to the property, and they bought it, which is amazing. But it was this exact estate. I know it extremely well. It's almost walking distance from where I stay, but it's a little bit too far. But that is an amazing thing that it's actually created. That has actually now blown my mind to another level as we're going through. So now that you've really given us so many little bits and pieces, what else can Claude do for us?
Yeah. So similar to how Claude can create images, you can use Claude to create whole presentations. That takes a little bit more time. So I'm not going to demonstrate an entire creation of a presentation, but I've already pre-created a presentation that I can share with you all. Just go into the tab. All right. Should be coming up shortly. Okay. So this is Claude Design. I think probably the newest feature that we have. It's still in preview, so most people haven't heard of it, but it is available if you go to claude.ai/design. And you can use this to create slide decks, websites, clickable prototypes. It really is for like heavier design things. But just for the sake of this demo, I used it to create a deck. And all I did was I gave it my headshot, I gave it some screenshots of Claude, and I wrote out these are the 5 slides that I want to have. So I have an attached document that says these are the slides that I want to have. Each section has a couple of bullets, but Claude did all the content for me. So it created a Claude for Real Estate presentation. Claude generated this image to go with it. It added my headshot and an about me slide. It's talking about the differentiators of Claude versus some of the other AI tools. It's highlighting some of the Claude services. And then it's talking about the demos that I'm going to go through. So this is literally just uploading something to Claude, telling it what you want, and it can build really powerful things for you. Granted, Claude Design uses a lot of tokens. So you can also do this in the normal Claude AI console. But if you really want to create something that's very, very high quality, something that you want to put on a website, things like that, I would recommend using Claude Design for it. You can make interactive presentations that you share with clients, that sort of thing. Just upload the information that you want to build the presentation off of, and Claude will design it. You go back and forth to tweak the content, and then it can produce something beautiful like this.
And that is amazing, because for each and every one of you, you should have something that's called a buyer's presentation or a seller's presentation or a personal presentation about who you are. A buyer's presentation is something that you would actually show to a buyer so that they can see what you can actually deliver. And the same for a seller's presentation. These are intense. They do take, as Adrian said, they do take a lot of tokens. Now, we hear this term tokens, and it's going to be one of the first questions that I want to ask. I know what it is and what it's all about, but what exactly is a token? And we're going to get to that answer. So have that mulling in the back of your head before you answer it. What exactly is a token is going to be the very first question we'll start with. So Adrian, you've now shown us a whole plethora of different things that Claude can actually use. You've also gone into technology that, well, is really behind the scenes, and we're getting a deep understanding of where Claude is and what it's doing. What is next? You're actually behind the scenes. Is there anything next that's coming out with Claude that you know of?
So things just are sometimes released without me even noticing it. Like I didn't realize Claude Design was public yet. Primarily because we get to test things out so much sooner than everyone else. So we've been using things and it's like, oh, that's available for everyone else now. So I don't know specifically what will be available to the public. What I can say is that we're always working on new models. So you all may have heard of like Mythos. That's our newest model that's only available to select organizations, and specifically for security and vulnerability searches. We will continue to come out with other high-powered models that help people do both specific and general tasks.
Absolutely. So models is just really what happens in the background to start creating things. A business that doesn't have a model, it actually collapses. So it needs these strong models to actually start to go through. All right. Adrian, I actually want to thank you for your time. We're going to jump into a Q&A session. Is there anything final, anything else of wisdom that you'd love to share with us with Claude before we go into the Q&A?
I think the one word of advice that I would like to leave everyone with when I'm talking about AI is that you should try it out. Get hands on, just go fumble around with it, and prompt it with liberty. And what I mean by that is when we are like trying to get things done, we sometimes have like a focused vision of like what it needs to be, what the parameters are, how things should go. But Claude is super smart. Claude has access to much more information than any of us have access to. If you just tell Claude generally what you want it to do, you'll be really surprised by the results that Claude outputs if you aren't so restrictive in how you prompt it. So give Claude the freedom to create something beautiful for you and actually test it out.
Absolutely. And that's the big thing. You're not going to break anything. So I want to go into some Q&A, and there's some very valid questions that comes out. Now, the very first one is this tokens, because on a free plan, you're going to get X amount of tokens. And as you go up on the different plans, you get more tokens. And the easiest way it was explained to me was, remember the days when you used to put the money into the video games? Well, that was a token. And when the game ended, well, the token, bam, end of game. You put more in, you can play more. What is the typical token count? And I know it's something that's very difficult to answer, but the difference between what you can do on a free plan compared to the entry paid plan, is there a lot more tokens that are then available?
Yeah, and I think the description that you gave of like a game token is the one that I'll stick with. We don't need to go into like the technical details of a token, but basically it is the amount of credits that you have to do AI compute. AI is very compute intensive. So the higher powered model you are using, the more tokens you are consuming. So if you go to the Claude website right now, there are three models that are generally available for everyone from low to high. Haiku is the lowest level one. It's completely fine for most normal prompting tasks, just asking questions, research. If you're using a free plan, lean towards Haiku to maximize your tokens because it consumes the least amount of power. Sonnet is the middle tier. It's what most people use. It's like the default when you set up a Claude account, it'll be on the Sonnet model. It is, of course, higher powered than Haiku, but not as high powered as Opus. So Opus is the highest tier. Everything that I did today was in Opus. It's using the most tokens, but I'm used to using Opus for my work. And I also have the Claude Max plan personally. So if you're just wanting to test things out, start with Haiku. If you need a little bit more power, but you're still in the free plan, I would say use Sonnet. You can also use Opus on the free plan, but it's going to max out very quickly. And what that means is that you just won't be able to use Opus for a certain amount of time. It'll say you've used all your tokens, come back in a day or something like that. So yeah, it's just the amount of power that your model is using.
Absolutely. And because we're South African, I will give you my little top tip for all of this because as South Africans, we tend not to want to pay, but when we pay, we get things instant. When something is going and suddenly it says, hey, you can only continue at 11:40 p.m. Well, wait till 11:40 p.m. and just type in continue. And it'll then pick up and carry on. It doesn't stop, delete, and start from the beginning. It actually continues from there. So I did have one project that I worked on. It took a week to actually get it after all of that. I wanted to see, and I was really testing it out. Will it actually give me the output? And it did, which was quite amazing. I was quite amazed. Right, let's go into some questions. And this one's a very valid question. Using Cowork on the actual desktop, how safe is it? Because you've got a lot of personal information. We've also got clients' details on there. Having Cowork, is it going to secretly jump behind the scenes and copy and paste all that information? How secure is that Cowork on your desktop for it to have access to everything?
Yeah. So Cowork is secure. I am on the security team at Anthropic, and I would not feel comfortable giving it access to my desktop unless I believed that it was secure, whether I worked at Anthropic or not. But what makes Cowork secure is several things. One, if you're using it for data analysis on your desktop, you have to specify which folder it can have access to. It doesn't have unfederated access to your desktop. You point it to a specific folder where you put your files and it works just in that folder. On top of that, and we saw this in the demo, anytime it does something, you can set it to ask you before it does the task. You can remove that if you want to because it's in the container that you set it up in. But I like to keep it because I want to know what it's doing. So it's double checking to see if what it's doing is approved by you and it's only working within a specific container or specific parameters that you've set. So from that perspective, as long as you don't have anything in that folder that you don't want Cowork to process, it won't have access to it.
Absolutely. And I like that it's actually got settings that you can set. So, and I would strongly suggest, just as Adrian said, make sure that you say, can you do it? Yes. I'm going to say, yes, you can do this. So having that prompt, it does kind of delay it, but just think about it. Do you want to have open access? No. So make sure that you're going through all of that way. Next question that came in, what is the best way to download? So going through to Claude AI, it just takes you straight into the chat. Is there a specific place where you can download the proper official Cowork app? What is that URL?
Yeah, so you can download it from any app store, whether it's the mobile app, I'm using a Mac, so the Mac App Store. That's actually a good question. How do you download the app from the web? You can go to claude.com/download, and that will give you the link to all the apps, desktop app for Mac, Windows, and iOS and Android apps. And I'll actually drop that link in the chat.
Perfect, perfect. Well, there we go. It actually answered the next question. Is it available on iPhone and Android? Well, yes, it is. So that you can actually have it
Yep.
on your phone, which actually makes so cool. And also what's nice about it, remember, single login. So whether you're logged in onto your desktop, logged in on your phone, what you do on your phone appears on the desktop as well. They're all interlinked because it's working on the same cloud environment. That's what's so amazing about this world that we live in today. So the next one is, and Lillian, I can answer this. How do you make Claude to be prompted to sound like a human? I know it's going to sound crazy, but just say, please write your answer to sound like a human. I know it sounds so simple. I tested it. And there's an app out there called the Hemingway app. It's an app that's used for publishers that you take what you've written in AI, you put it into the Hemingway app, and it actually says, this is 30% written by AI. I tested it. I did a standard one. It came back and said it was 90% written by AI. I went back into Claude and I said, please, can you humanize this? Write it like it's written by a human. Copy, paste it into there, and it dropped it down to 30%. It said only 30% of this is AI generated, which means if somebody's reading it, it sounds like a human. All right. The only thing to add in it is you're a human from South Africa using English. So when I say English from England, UK, because remember, color has a U in it. All right. So there are spelling errors that do come in there. All right, another one. Can Claude be connected to Zoho? It's another big program out there. I know that you mentioned that there were only 3 platforms at the moment. I'm pretty sure in the future there may be, or maybe it's in development, to have it connected through to Zoho. Would I understand that correctly?
Yeah, so natively, Cowork can connect to Superhuman, Gmail, and Microsoft. However, you can connect Claude to other things manually. So once you download the desktop app and you go into Cowork, there will be an option that says connectors. You can click that and it'll say you can manually connect. So I haven't tested out the Zoho connectivity, but I would imagine that you can do a manual connection to Zoho, even though the automatic connection hasn't been set up in Claude yet.
Perfect. So it's automatic to something that's manual. Good question. Cowork. Is it something that's free or is it a paid version only?
So it is included in the Claude account that you set up. So if you have a free account, you can use a free version of Cowork, or if you have the paid account, it's included there too. So when you download the desktop app, it'll just be there. And you can also use Cowork in the browser. So if you don't want to download the desktop app, you can install the Claude extension in a Chrome browser. It's only available for Chrome right now. And you can use Cowork in your browser. So same connectivity to email, to calendars, whatever. It's just all browser based and you can have it to do things for you in browser tabs. And I like using that one because it can go through documents for you. So like if you give it a link to a Google Drive folder or links to documents, it'll go in and pull data from those documents and create documents for you.
Brilliant. So another one, and I like this question that came through. So I got Cowork on my computer. I have a folder, and I've just dumped all of these files into it. Can I ask Cowork to sort out that folder and basically put files in the correct place so it neatens it up? Can it go that far on the actual desktop?
Yes, as long as you're asking it to operate in the same folder, or like you've given it permissions to go to different folders. It can make folders for you, it can sort documents for you. I actually most recently used Cowork to help me with my business taxes. So I did an export of all of my real estate expenses, and like I hate doing the accounting part of it. So I said, Claude, take this spreadsheet, map all my expenses to the properties and create like a balance sheet. And it created like a 8-tab balance sheet analysis of my real estate portfolio because I didn't feel like doing it. And it saved me days of work. So yeah, it could go through, and all of that documentation was in a folder. It wasn't structured. It just went through and did all the things. So yeah, as long as you give it permission, it can do that too.
Brilliant. So we did talk about connecting co-work through to Zoho, and you mentioned that will probably be a manual interaction that it can actually go through. I'm assuming that it could be actually have a manual interaction through to other
Mhm.
software programs on your computer, software programs are in the cloud. Can you do the manual connections through to that? Would that also be something that is possible?
Yeah. So natively, Claude already connects to a lot of different apps. I can't even list all of them, but the ones that I like use regularly is everything in the Google suite. So Drive, email, calendars. It connects to Slack. So if you use Slack for chatting, it can connect to Slack. It can find Slack messages for you. Um, we have custom systems at Anthropic that we connect Claude to, and we do that through the manual connector process. So anything that allows you to connect other systems to it in a manual fashion, Claude can probably talk to it. And we also have a list of things that Claude just natively connects to, and you can check out that list. And if you're using one of those things, then you have the automatic connection capability that's available.
Perfect. Just remember, guys, Claude's cousin is Jarvis, and we know Jarvis could do anything and everything. So Robert Downing Jr. really had a great mentor and person working with him, all right, when he was in that Iron Man suit. So Claude is learning from his cousin and pretty much can do anything. So just remember that as we're going through. So quick answer here, can Claude research sold properties and give information of where buyers are coming from? Well, absolutely. If you're giving it enough data, it will be able to pull it out. Will it know that they came from this particular street in this area? No, because that is not public knowledge. But as much information as possible that Claude can actually pick up, and what I would strongly suggest is test it. Seeing the data is really going to surprise you. I've done so many tests with Claude at the moment. I get amazed at the actual outputs that are actually coming out of it. Um, is it necessary to, with each chat with Claude, to always be honest and give it and say, please give me accurate answers? Or does Claude just automatically assume that it will be giving you an accurate answer?
Yeah. So Claude isn't perfect, but it does automatically try to give you an accurate answer because of the Constitution that we talked about earlier. So the general theme of the Constitution that Claude is trained on is to provide an answer that is safe, harmless, respectful, and unbiased. So Claude is always trying to do that, even to a fault. So I've gotten into arguments with Claude where I'm asking it to give me information and it keeps giving me like a gentle version of information. And I want something that is like more realistic. And I've literally had to stop Claude and say, hey, Claude, why do you keep giving me this tone of response? And Claude will say, well, because I'm trying to give an answer that is harmless or respectful or unbiased. And even when Claude makes mistakes, you can just call Claude out and say, hey, Claude, can you double check this? Or are you sure this is correct? I thought this was the answer. And it'll go back, it'll apologize, it'll give you something that is more accurate. What I find is that when I am doing something and I really need to make sure the data and the output is very accurate, like I know that it's going to be double checked. I can't like provide something that's fluff. I'm going to do a little bit more due diligence up front. I'm going to make sure I'm giving Claude a high quality data set, and that just increases the chances of Claude doing an even better job with what you give it.
Absolutely. The big key here is the data that you're putting in. And the data that I'm making reference to is the questions. And I'm seeing a lot of the questions that's coming into the actual chat box. And my answer to, what can we do with expired listings to find leads? I'm a new agent. How can Claude help me to actually, become a better agent or get into the market? Is tell Claude, hey, by the way, I'm a brand new agent. I'm a new person. I've got these expired listings. Give it the information. Upload some data that you may have that it won't have access to. And then just ask it straight out. Help me. Help me to get a listing. Help me to find a lead. Give me some ideas. Use Claude not just as a computer awaiting information. So it's not an encyclopedia where you're going to have to read the information. Ask it the questions. It is going to be your virtual assistant that will do research and come back and give you some suggested ideas. You may turn around and go, look, idea one, I just cannot do. I don't have the guts. I don't have the courage to do that. Give me something else. And it will actually do that particular research for you. That's the power of using AI as we're going through it. Can Claude use my picture to create videos for social media? And the design, has it got to the point where I can give it a picture or two and say, please convert this picture into a video? Can the design do that? I'm asking.
So Claude doesn't do videos yet, but if you gave it pictures and said, animate this, it can create a style to where it would look like a video. But we aren't in the video space yet. I don't know if we'll ever go there. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Claude, as hopefully you can see from some of the demos today, it was built by like really serious engineers that like to do like highly technical things. Video isn't like necessarily as high on the priority list for Claude, but you can do animations and things like that pretty easily in design.
Perfect. And with the design, if you give it a picture and say, I don't like the color of the couch, could you change it from red to blue? Would it be able to do a simple overlay and changing simple colors of that nature?
Yes. So any like deep level design type things, animating still pictures, stringing pictures together to make it feel like a video, changing colors to things, Claude design can be used for all of that.
Perfect, perfect. And all the chats, they remain within Claude. There isn't a limitation. If I use it for the next, say, 10 years, what I did on day one will still be there. I'll just need to scroll all the way down, but there isn't a limit as to how many chats I can have. And it's going to basically, after 2 years, it's going to be deleted. Is Claude basically open as far as all the information will always be there going into the future?
On the free plan, there's no limit to the amount of chats that you can have, but after 30 days, your chat history is going to be gone because you have to pay for storage to chats. And if it's free user plans, we're not actually getting any money to pay for the storage. So your chats your chat history lasts for 30 days. However, Claude has enterprise plans. So if like all of an EXP Realty office wanted to secure Claude under a Teams plan, with that, you can set your own data retention standards to where you can keep your data for months, years, however long you want. You can like maintain your chat history with those tailored plans if you're on a paid Teams or enterprise plan with Claude.
Perfect. Perfect. So a question that I can answer, if you've got a list of buyers and you don't have the stock, can you go through a particular website to actually go and search for ideal stock? Well, we know that Claude does have access to the website. And just one thing too, bearing in mind, software developers, when they design websites, they sometimes put a security feature that prevents bots and robots from having access into the actual website itself. If that has been activated, Claude can't break it down and get to the other side. So it will then stop there and it will actually tell you, hey, I cannot have access to this website. And that is actually a security precaution. So there's a lot of sites out there that they do put up those particular walls. So how do you work around that? Well, then you can actually take snapshots. You can take any of the PDF documents and then feed it that particular date and say, this buyer, this is what they're looking for. Here's an array. Tell me, will this work? And they will actually go through and pick the property that will be best suited for them as you're actually going through that. Right. Sure. Questions are coming through here. I'm just going to go co-work link in the browser. Yes, we've got all of that. Pull history. We've got that one. Going through there. And going for there today. Right, perfect. Now I've got to the bottom of all of those questions. We've actually gone 16 minutes over the time. So I want to actually say to all of you, I want to thank you so much for coming into this particular session. If you have questions, please do direct them through to me. You've got my email address. I will then obviously have discussions with Adrian. As she mentioned, she is one of my coaching clients. We've been working together. I think we're actually nearly 2 years. It's actually
Yeah,
going on for
almost.
such a
Yeah.
long time. It's been a huge, huge journey, and the successes that she's having is absolutely amazing. So, Adrian, I want to thank you so much for coming into this particular session, sharing your time. Please, with the senior managers above, tell them that you did an introduction to eXp Realty, because I'm pretty sure they're going to go, how did you manage that? Because I think that is definitely something that's going to be rocking the boat out of there. I want to thank you so much for your time. Any final thoughts, comments, or words from yourself?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the invite. Um, like I mentioned, I'm on the security team at Anthropic, so I don't get the opportunity to do these types of talks like I did at Google, where I was more in a customer facing role. So this was really cool. Happy to come back anytime and answer more questions or bring on someone who actually does this for a living day to day at Anthropic if you need like deeper answers to things. But yeah, this was really fun, and I'm happy to answer any questions or connect with anyone on LinkedIn or anything like that.
Excellent. Adrian, again, thank you so much for your time. So this is another session where, yep, Stuart puts out the fishing rod. He looks for the actual biggest fish out there and brings them in so that we can start talking about some form of technology. Today was all about Claude and understanding what Claude can actually do for you. We actually pulled the curtain back and actually got to realize that, well, there's a little program called Cowork. I didn't even know about that. And design, I didn't even know about that. These are some amazing tools that really helps you to ultimately save you time and as well as help you to find those particular clients in your business. So from myself, Stuart, it's always a great for you guys to join us. I know we had an extended session, but I'm pretty sure you enjoyed it. And I look forward to seeing you in future sessions. So from myself, Stuart, you guys have a fantastic time further. Cheers for now. Bye, guys.